Hello and welcome to Sharing Vietnam. Knowledge sharing events have been blossoming in Vietnam to meet the demand of a young population and a fast-growing economy. In our program today, we will have a conversation with Brian Nathan, an American entrepreneur and educator. He will share with us insights into some very interesting social events in Hanoi, such as TEDx. Hello Brian, thank you very much for joining us today. First of all, what are the reasons for you to live and work in Hanoi?
I first actually came to Hanoi on a 3-day holiday. I was living in South Korea at the time, and there was an outbreak of the MERS virus. I think you remember this, 2 years ago. And so me and my friends, we decided we wanted to go somewhere, and we looked for the cheapest flights, and it was to Hanoi. And I knew a little bit about Hanoi, but I didn't know much. And so we booked flights, and we flew here. And when I got here, I was so amazed with it. It was so different than anywhere I've ever been in my life. Just so rich in culture and vibrant, and the smells and the sights. And I had this feeling that I wanted to come back here. So I went back to Korea after those 3 days, and I still had this impression of Hanoi, of Vietnam in my mind. And I really wanted just to explore the whole country and see all the different places. So eventually I decided to come here for 2 months and do the motorbike trip. And I got to Saigon, and I met up with my friends, we bought motorbikes, and we drove from Saigon all the way up to Sapa on the course of 2 months. I really came to like Hanoi, and I decided that I was going to live here.
Could you tell us more about your work here?
So primarily I've been doing teaching. I teach improv comedy here, and a little bit of English as well to adults. The improv comedy though, that has been really progressing ever since TEDx actually. We had such a great turnout for that. And people really are starting to appreciate what improv comedy is. Because if you go to New York or London or even Germany, improv is huge there. Everyone's doing it. But in Vietnam, it's still a new thing. And so explaining to people what improv is and why it's useful for them has been really fun and engaging. And that's just starting to take so many different directions. And one of my friends, Blake, and I, we started this company to recruit teachers out here. One thing that we've noticed with Vietnam is that a lot of teachers, they come here for a little bit and they leave. They don't really stay for 6 months or even a year. It's more of a stopping ground on their travel. And there's also not enough teachers here to fill the demand for it. And we want to help bring good quality teachers to Vietnam, and the quality teachers that are already in Vietnam, help them find good jobs. So we've started that business as well, and we're just getting going with that. We just built a website on that. We're starting to contact schools and starting to roll that out.
What do you think of the opportunities and challenges for your work in Hanoi?
I always say Vietnam is a land of opportunity. You had the head of Google here last year, and he was talking about how he feels that Vietnam is going to be the next tech capital of the world. And I think you really see that just living here in the last year and a half. I've seen so much just innovation, so many things changing and developing, and newer technologies being integrated by people. And I really feel that this is a land of opportunity, that if you want to do something, if you want to start a business, whether that's in technology or in import or export, this is really a great place to do that.
TED, which stands for Technology, Entertainment and Design, is a US-based media organization which posts talks online for free distribution under the slogan, "Ideas Worth Spreading." TED's early emphasis was technology and design, but it has since broadened its focus to include talks on many scientific, cultural, and academic topics. TED events are held throughout North America and in Europe and Asia, offering live streaming of the talks. Enthusiasts can also attend TEDx Talks, which are independent TED-like events. The talks can be organized by anyone who obtains a free license from TED, agreeing to follow certain principles. A TEDx event is organized by volunteers from the local community. Its goal is to spark conversation, connection, and community. As of January 2014, the TEDx Talks library contained some 30,000 films and presentations from over 130 countries. In recent years, TEDx Talks have also been held in major cities of Vietnam, attracting many local and foreign speakers and audiences.
Yeah, it seemed to me, I didn't get a perfect count, it seemed to me that the audience was about 50% Western and about 50% Vietnamese. My topic was very heavy. I was concerned that I'm also a very fast speaker, I think, and I was a bit concerned that for a non-native English-speaking audience it would be difficult. But I was approached by many people afterwards, both Western and Vietnamese, who really appreciated the work.
The latest major event in Vietnam was TEDx Budding 2017, which took place in Hanoi on April the 16th. Jointly organized by Brian Nathan and 3 other partners, this year's event focused on ideas and how to transform them into reality. The full-day stage program included TED's famous 18-minute talks, plus music, comedy, and tech demos in a custom-built theater. Speakers are well-known figures with interesting stories, such as Mrs. Mirav Island Shahar, Israeli ambassador to Vietnam, Mr. Phạm Quốc Đạt, a Forbes-listed young Vietnamese entrepreneur, and Mr. Jordan Vogt Roberts, director of the multi-million-dollar Kong Skull Island movie, which was shot in Vietnam. What were the reasons for you to take part in organizing TEDx Budding 2017?
So initially, when I came to Vietnam, I saw that there was a TEDx event. It was actually a TEDx Badin event, and I wanted to get tickets, and it was sold out. I'd been to a TEDx event when I lived in England, in Manchester, and completely love it. And I watch TED Talks every single day. So I love TED, I love learning, I love sharing ideas, I love what the brand is. And then I met Long, who is he's curated now, this is his 4th TEDx. And I met him through improv, actually. And then I realized he was also the guy that's been doing the TEDx events. And I said, I'd love to get involved. And that was almost 9 months ago that we first got involved doing that. And we've been meeting every single weekend to kind of organize this whole thing. But I think what draws me to it is just that Vietnam it's such a place where there's so much innovation happening right now. And we want to just kind of capture that and share that with other people.
What are some special features of TEDx Budding in comparison with other social events in Hanoi?
There's a lot of different events going on in Hanoi. We personally have the Petra Kucha events, which is a more laid-back, informal event where anyone can come and speak and share an idea. I have the Big Ideas Hanoi, and we do different kind of meetups and different workshops as well. But with TEDx, what we really wanted to do is we wanted to give people the full TED experience. That if they were going to fly and go to a TED Global Conference, we want to mimic that experience and give that to them. I've never been to an actual TED conference. I've only been to the TEDx conferences. However, TED flew Long last year to San Francisco to attend TED Woman. And so he came back and he's kind of like, I have a vision, like I've seen what it's like. I want to do it just like that. And I said, 100%, let's do that. And so our main idea when doing this was the user experience, is having people experience the conference like they would if they were seeing it in TED Global and that platform.
What were the challenges for you and your partners in organizing TEDx Budding 2017, and how did you manage to overcome them?
So many different challenges. The first, I think, was the venue. We really wanted to find a venue that would suit the quality of event that we wanted to give. And previously we've done it at smaller venues, but we wanted to have between 300 and 400 people. So we needed to find a venue that could occupy that. And we went to see this show called Iona, which is kind of like Cirque du Soleil in Hanoi at the Star Galaxy Theater. And we went there to scope it out to see if this could be the theater. And we got there, and it's a really beautiful theater, really well maintained. The seats themselves, it's about 350 seats when you're there. But the way that the stadium is actually shaped, when you're in the stadium, it feels almost like you're in a cafe. It's like really cozy setting. And not only for the people, for the audience there, but also for the speaker. When you're standing on stage, it doesn't look like you're speaking to 350 people, which can be really intimidating. You feel like you're just speaking to a few friends. So we really, really like the setup of that auditorium, and we decided that we're going to go with that. So that was the first, probably one of the biggest challenges, was getting that, the venue. And then we found it, and we solved that problem. But then from each and every way, there's more and more challenges arise.
Could you share with us some interesting stories about TEDx Budding 2017?
We had to find speakers, finding quality speakers, because when we posted the event, we had a lot of people applying, saying, "Oh, I would love to speak at TED," and it's like, "Great, what are you doing?" And it's like, "Oh, I'm not doing anything, but I would love to talk about something." It's like, "Well, we're looking for someone who actually has an idea, or someone who's the best in their field, or someone who has something that they want to share with the community." So that was also another challenge, is just finding quality speakers that actually are going to take this serious and that are also passionate. They have something to share. It was challenging, but also rewarding, because once you narrow them down, I mean, we had hundreds of applicants. We reached out to a lot of people all over Asia and all over the US as well. People that we knew personally, or people that our friends knew, and we turned a lot to magazines as well to find people who we don't know about, like Forbes 30 Under 30. We found a lot of people on those lists, or TechCrunch, all these publications that have already found these speakers to do research to find quality speakers. And then once we found them, we had to contact them. Which is a really interesting story, actually, because a lot of these speakers, we would email their assistants and speak to their secretaries, or we send them an email and have to give them a call, and it took us a while to actually get to the speaker. But one of our speakers, Jordan Vogt Roberts, one of the curators on the team, she reached out to him, and I was like, did you know him personally? Like, how did you? And she's like, "No, I just pulled out Instagram and messaged him on Instagram," and he responded. And it's, wow, like that, you can just message someone on Instagram and they might actually respond, someone of that status. And it was actually a really good lesson to me, because after that conversation, I was like, okay, for the next event, we're going big. We're going to get Tony Robbins here. Let's get Gary Vaynerchuk here. Let's get anyone. It's really, the sky's the limit. And it also shows you that, like, the limits that you have are put on a lot by yourself. You think, oh, we can never get this huge person to fly all the way over to Vietnam and to speak here, but you'd be surprised who's actually willing to come out here and who wants to come out here. So that was a challenge, but also really eye-opening as well.
And what is your evaluation of the results of the event?
So there wasn't really too many things that went wrong, so I was really, really happy. And the team did an amazing job on setting up. The volunteers worked really, really hard. So everything came together, and I think on the evaluations from the participants, because we sent out a feedback form, was actually 98% positive. The biggest complaint was the timing, was that they wished that the sections didn't go over as it did, and I totally agree, and that's something that can happen. And so I was quite happy with the feedback. People loved the Rotten Grapes. A lot of them haven't seen it before, and they loved watching that. They loved the performances. The only other feedback, I think, which I agree as well, and that'll come down to adjusting the time, is they wish they had more Q&As with all the speakers. So we only had 2 Q&A sessions, one in section 2 and one in section 3. But a lot of people would like to have Q&As with everyone on stage. So I think we'll try to work in more Q&As and let the audience engage a little bit more during the talks as well.
Well, Brian, thank you very much for joining us today and sharing some very exciting stories.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Well, that's all for our Sharing Vietnam today. We look forward to receiving more and more interesting ideas and knowledge of friends from around the world in social events in Vietnam. Thank you very much for watching, and see you again next time.